Every season players find out about hidden mechanics in dungeons that the Adventurer Guide simply never mentions. Other players discover tech that nullifies entire mechanics and makes certain bosses a cakewalk. Midnight's first season is still very young, but so many unknown mechanics have already been discovered but are rather unknown for the average player. In this video, I will be showing you hidden tech that kind of feel like you're cheating but are completely fine to do if you want to gain a little bit of an advantage. The things I'm going to mention in this video are obviously not going to save you 10 minutes in each dungeon, but will most certainly make your life a whole lot easier while even making some pulls and bosses more enjoyable. Before we begin, I want to mention that all of the footage you're seeing here was streamed on twitch.tv/Varian. And if you want to see me rage about Maisara Cavern's life, or want to do some chill viewer keys, check my Twitch out after this video. At the time of this video's release, I'll most certainly be live, so if you have any questions about the tech I'm going to mention in this video, hop over and ask away. Alright, without further ado, let's jump straight into the first dungeon. Nexus-Point Xenas, one of the more difficult dungeons with massive damage and annoying boss mechanics. Before I talk about the biggest lifesaver in this dungeon, I want to quickly mention that you can remove the suppression field ability of the Flux Engineers in the Ethereal Wing. If you use abilities like Tiger's Lust on Monks, Freedom on Paladins, Shapeshift to any form on Druid, or any other ability that removes slow reduction, this entire ability can be completely removed, and that way you save your healer a lot of stress and make it easier for yourself as well. So whenever you have those spells up, remember to cleanse this effect from you. Alright, now the big tech that no one knows about yet. I've seen a post from Megaset on Twitter that you can identify the real Lothraxian pretty much instantly by throwing a snowball right before he finishes his cast. I obviously tested it too and can confirm that if you get far enough away from him, that the snowball still flies towards Lothraxian while finishing his cast, it still connects to the real one, like a homing missile, and makes it way easier for you and your team to identify the real one. These snowballs can be bought from the auction house and cost practically nothing as well. In some occasions, it is also rather hard to see where the snowball flew to, but even then, you have a way smaller area you need to check where the right Lothraxian is. Really insane hidden tech, which makes me believe that Blizzard might ban the usage of snowballs in Mythic Plus very soon, so make use of it as long as you can. Moving on to the next dungeon, Maisara Caverns. Now this dungeon is hated amongst the majority of the player base, and for good reason. The dungeon is unnecessarily packed with mobs no one asked for. You butt pull every single time and yet have like 2% missing at the end of the dungeon, and even the bosses are quite annoying to fight. But I brought tech with me that will make the first and last boss infinitely easier. You can actually ignore the entire mechanic of the AoE puddle spam that Necrax, the big bird, casts every now and then during the first boss fight. All you have to do is stay outside the initial AoE around him, and once the cast is finished, walk straight back into it, and you'll be completely safe from all the incoming puddles. I guarantee you 100% that you will never be hit or targeted by any projectile as long as you do it like I do it right here. Right here, walk out, walk back in, 0 puddles around you. Now that mechanic some of you may already know, but I assure you the tech at the last boss kinda feels like a cheat code. If you tank Rug 2, the last boss, perfectly at one of these fireplaces, you can completely absorb the puddle mechanic. He will still hit you and knock you back, but he will not leave a puddle behind. The positioning is really difficult to hit, but once you know where to aim for and recognize the pattern, you will easily be able to ignore the entire mechanic and make it a lot easier on yourself and your team. Here's a clip of how Kira, one of the best tanks in the entire world, manages to abuse this mechanic and save him and his team a lot of stress. This tech is, as I said, really difficult to pull off, and a single misstep will result in the fireplace being surrounded by the massive puddle. So you only have 2 chances the entire fight to make use of this mechanic. 2 chances because there's another one at the other end of the stairs if you didn't know. If you want to learn this mechanic and perfect the positioning of it, I would recommend you jumping into a follower dungeon and see if you can get the hang of it there. Alright, let's move on to Skyreach. And honestly, I love this first tech. Now this hidden tech is only really viable for Brewmaster monks, as they are the only ones able to reliably teleport from one place to another thanks to their Transcendence ability. If you put down your Transcendence near this wall at the beginning of the run and start running a full circle, pulling every mob on the way, and then use your Transcendence ability again, teleporting you back, all the mobs you just pulled will clip through the wall and follow you back to the beginning. This massive pull looks scary at first, but these mobs don't really do anything significant, and there's not a ton of castles you need to take care of. Up until now, I never had a group that couldn't manage to survive this pull, and honestly, it's a ton of fun being able to blast this many mobs at once. This also allows an early Bloodlust pull, giving you the possibility to have 3 Bloodlusts in this dungeon, which usually only has windows for 2. The only difficult part here is to manage your defensives right, while gathering all the mobs, but once you make it to the end of the pathway and are able to teleport back to safety, you know you did everything right and that you will most certainly survive unless you disconnect. That's not the only tech in this dungeon though. There's also a skip for the Wind Gauntlet that every single class and spec can use. Many of you already know that with abilities like Demon Hunter's Glide, you can jump onto this little area and basically skip the entire gauntlet. But what if you're a measly little priest with next to no mobility abilities? Well, you're in luck, as you too can pull this off. Simply squeeze yourself into this corner and wait until the bird casts the tornado. Once it reaches the end of its path, simply jump and let go of your keyboard until you make it to the other side of the wall. Then, simply start walking up the stairs while dodging the rest of the tornadoes and you're good to go. This skips like 80% of the gauntlet for every single class out there, saving a solid 20 seconds probably. And hey, I know you hate the gauntlet as much as I do, so you're welcome. Another small little fact for the tanks out there, at the second boss, Arachnath, you can just tank these waves that spawn after the beam soak. These don't really do any meaningful amounts of damage and your melee DPS will be thanking you, as they will probably not get slapped anymore the second they are closer to the boss than you are. Alright, Seed of the Triumvirate is next up on the list. This dungeon has one mechanic that's similar to the Nexus-Point chains, can also be cleansed with movement abilities. So whenever you see a purple circle around you or a debuff named Chains of Subjugation on you, consider pressing your Tiger's Lust, your Freedom, or Shapeshift into any form. This ability hits extremely hard, especially on hierarchies, so do yourself and your healer a favor and get these spells removed, and if you have multiple ways of removing this ability, make sure to help your team out as well. The only other tech I got for you in this dungeon is on the first boss. If you don't have the damage or simply need a little bit more time to kill the ads before the boss casts its pull ability, simply CC them. Or if you have a monk in your team, cast a Ring of Peace right below the boss. This will prevent the ads to reach the boss and prevent certain group wipes. You can also build up a great distance between the boss and the ads. If you're far enough away, the boss won't be able to pull the ads in, as they are simply out of range. You should obviously always aim to kill the ads, but if you are in a hectic situation or need a little bit more time, you can always make use of these tactics. Elgai Academy has two neat little tricks only for tanks. The first rather known mechanic is at the Wind mini-boss at the separate platform right before Crawl. Here, you don't have to run away like a headless chicken whenever the elemental starts casting the big knockback AoE. The damage is really insignificant for tanks, and you can simply hug one of the 4 pillars and keep dealing damage. Just make sure to rotate from one pillar to the next. Whenever it gets crowded with the tornadoes, it starts putting down every now and again. The last trick is supposed to be more of a tutorial on how to tank the last boss, to prevent the room from getting filled with the orbs so quickly. At the beginning of the fight, kite her back to the entrance of the room and start putting down the orbs there. If you didn't know, every 3 stacks of overwhelming power spawns these puddles that constantly spawn orbs that deal massive amounts of damage and put another stack of overwhelming power on the player. Getting hit by one of these in hierarchies as a non-tank is certain death, and being able to position these orbs right as a tank is key to time this key. Just start at the room's entrance and keep positioning the orbs in a way where they are either next to each other or near a wall where you're not going to be in the near future, and keep kiting her around the room. If everyone now stands to the side of the boss, there's next to no chance of accidentally flying into one of these orbs when she casts her pull ability. Pit of Sauron is another dungeon with relatively easy things you should know about, beginning with the Gargoyle Grab and the Cryo Shard ability on Forge Master, both being cleansable by using things like Tiger's Lust once again. This season's dungeon pool is honestly packed with mechanics you can remove with these abilities, so if you have the chance, always consider opting into them in your talent tree. It makes your life a whole lot easier, trust me. But the other mechanic that most people still don't seem to get is that the Forged Master's Glacial Overload ability will always target one of the 2 forges he currently stands closest to. So if you want to improve in your tanking, you should always position him in a way where your team can still attack him while the cast is going on. This also means you should always position the rocks right as a DPS and know which forge is going to be targeted and position yourself accordingly. Some of you will say that this mechanic has been known since the season's release, but I still see people being confused and thinking it's a 50-50 on which forge is gonna get targeted next. So for those that didn't know until now, it's calculated and you can play with that knowledge and make this fight a lot easier. Now in Magisters Terrace, there's not much hidden things except one thing that everyone seems to miss. We all know that there is this book in this library that grants you and your team 5% haste for 30 minutes straight. But did you know that there are these energy crystals that grant you 10% damage and healing increase for 30 seconds for each crystal you pick up? No one seems to know about them or simply choose to ignore them. And while there are some in the middle of a few packs you usually don't want to pull, there's also these ones right before the first boss, which should always be picked up from your DPS and healer to increase their output, making the boss die faster and thus saving tons of time on your Mythic Plus timer. Now buckle your seats, as you might be hyped for this Windrunner Spire hidden tech, and all I can say is that I don't have anything for this dungeon. This dungeon is really easy, with no real hidden tech you should know about. Honestly, the only tech I can teach you for this dungeon is don't die and dodge stuff. That's about it. And that's about every hidden or unknown mechanic that's out there for now. If the list ever grows and more mechanics get discovered over the season, I will obviously update you guys with another video like this. I would really like to know how many of these you already knew and how many were new to you. Let me know down in the comments below, and while you're down there, consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. And if you want to catch me live, drop a follow on twitch.tv/Varian. Anyways, I wish you all a great rest of the day, and I will see you in the next one.